So today I'd like to talk about some of the new features that are in Apple's iOS 7 platform that they just recently released to the public. Now, of course, we've been under iOS 6 for a while, and iOS 7 has come out, and now everyone's rushing to get that upgrade. Now, I don't know off the top of my head which generations of iPod Touch, iPhone, and iPad the iOS 7 upgrade is eligible for, but I will find that information and I'll put it in the description of the video or off to the side here in an annotation so you'll know if the device you have can be upgraded to iOS 7 or not. Now, one of the biggest changes with iOS 7 is its visual appearance. Since iOS first came around in 2007 with the release of the first generation iPhone, the visual appearance of iOS has been pretty concurrent. There hasn't really been any kind of changes since up to version 6. Now with version 7, there's been a whole revamp of the visual appearance in iOS, and you'll see that on the iPad here when I show that off. And of course, some people have probably been waiting for a good visual redesign of iOS, plus the additional features that come with it. So I will go ahead and take a look at those. So when I wake the iPad up from sleep, one of the first things we'll do is these new visual appearance is part of the lock screen here. Again, the lock screen looks a little different. And the iPad, and of course your other iOS devices, the screen will fade in and out when you wake it up from sleep or you put it to sleep. So that's one of the different visual appearances that iOS 7 has. Again, it's all part of this lock screen here. I can get it to wake up. Through the password area here. And now we're in the home screen. And again, there's a lot of different icons on the home screen now. There's a bit of a different ribbon down here at the bottom. So again, there has been some visual changes with the iOS 7 upgrade. One of those changes is with the notification bar. Again, you still pull it down from the top as normal, but it takes up the whole screen now. And you can display all your information from all your apps or from like missed things like missed calls or something on the iPhone or whatever if you want to segregate those out. And then you've got stuff for like just today. For instance, just telling me what the date is, what the weather is here, and if there's anything in particular that I need to monitor. So that's one of the other visual changes is the notification bar. Now when we get into features, there's a couple of new features that people might like to have. One of those big features is Control Center. Now, when you've wanted to quickly change the volume or the brightness or mute your device or anything like that, you've usually had to go to the ribbon here and go left or right on it after you click this once to bring it up. But instead of doing that now, all you do is swipe up from the bottom, and this brings up Control Center. This is the new way that they have to control brightness and whatnot. It gives you shortcuts for turning on and off airplane mode, turning on and off Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, putting the device in its sleep function. Now, the sleep on here, of course, is like the do not disturb function is what it really is. And then you've got your mute right there. And you get options for cameras and reminders, your brightness, volume, and playback controls are all over there. And the other benefit is Control Center can be accessed from the lock screen without having to unlock the device. I wake it up here, swipe up, and I can access the Control Center if I quickly want to mute the device or turn on airplane mode or something like that. So I don't have to completely wake the device up if I want to change that. I have to change this a little bit. That lock screen shouldn't be coming up all the time, but I'll fix that part. Now some of the other features have to do with multitasking. Now we've had multitasking in iOS for a while, but in iOS 7 they've improved on that to make it a little easier, especially if you need to close applications, because as you know, with iOS 6 and before, you had to bring up the little ribbon and you had to hold that app down until they started jiggling, and then you get the little red circles that you gotta push to close the application. Now, when you do it this time, Now you get the application icon, but also you get a preview window of what is in that application. So this allows you to look through your applications and see what you were doing in that application without actually having to switch to it. And again, I said it's easier to close the apps. Just swipe them up. You don't have to hold them down and deal with that red circle anymore. Just swipe it up. Now, you can also close multiple apps at once using multiple fingers. So say I'm going to start opening up some settings. Just open up a bunch of apps here. Open up a calculator. Now I'm going to bring up the task switcher again. Now we've got multiple apps open. Now, if I want to close multiple apps, will I just use more than one finger? I say I use 2 fingers to close 2 apps. So now, you can close one app or more apps just using your fingers and swiping up. You don't have to, again, deal with the red circle business anymore. So that's one of the multitasking features. And now also one of the other issues is when you want to search for something. Search is a little different now. Again, similar to how you had to find your settings using the ribbon interface instead of the control center before. You usually had to go all the way over to the side here to bring up the search menu. Well, it doesn't work that way anymore. When you want to bring up a search, you have to pull down. But the thing is, you don't want to pull down from the top because that pulls down your notification bar. You actually have to pull down in an empty space on the home screen here to bring up your search bar again. If you want to close it, just swipe up. So when you bring down the search, find an empty space, swipe down. So this is where your search is now. It's no longer off to the side anymore. So again, that's one of the different features of iOS 7. And let's see. Also, iOS 7 in the control center, I don't know if you saw it or not, is Apple's AirDrop. Now, I'm not too familiar with this, but I'm guessing it's some kind of file sharing service or something like that. Maybe I'll explain that in an annotation or something. Anyway, this again is some of the changes that iOS 7 done. Also, you may have noticed when I opened an app, the animation that it opens like that now. So again, it's more of a visual change to iOS, but they've also added some additional new features to it and changed some around to make it a little more user-friendly. Now again, while this is good, it's also bad for us that have used iOS before, like iOS 6 and previous versions, because we're used to the way iOS works. Again, it hasn't changed for many years until now, and because of this, we kind of have to relearn how iOS works, since, like for example, the search isn't in the same spot anymore, and we've got Control Center now instead of trying to scroll over in the ribbon. So, again, it's good that it has the new visual interface, but it's also bad because we have to kind of relearn how to use iOS because of it. And the other issues that we're going to run into, again, it may not be compatible with certain generations of devices. Usually, a device that was compatible with iOS 6, for instance, like maybe the iPad 2, may not be compatible with iOS 7. Again, I'm not sure at the moment, but I will find that stuff to make sure of that. And again, since everyone's downloading it right now, the other issue is it takes a long time to download. I found that out too. So it will take a while to download from Apple's servers. Again, you just go into your settings and then general and then software update if you want to update to iOS 7. So again, it is kind of just a small look at some of the new features present in iOS 7. Again, there will probably be more to talk about at a later date.